Hello all. Hello all. This is an attempt to understand the measures of financial health. In the recent past there are a lot of controversies about the healthiness of the banks, in the media. Particularly in the social media. Lot of misinformations about the financial performance about the banks. But, from where it started. All these controversies started after the RBI introduced the revised PCA framework for banks on April 2000. Prompt corrective action 2. This is a framework to measure the commercial bank's financial condition. It has 3 trigger points. Based on the trigger point levels the RBI will intervene with corrective action the banks. The 3 trigger points 3. 1. Capital to risk-weighted asset ratio, CRAR. 2. Net non-performing assets, NPA, and 3. Return on assets, ROA. How the financial health of the banks calculated through these, let us see in detail. To avoid the failure of financial institutions including commercial banks is to put more capital into these institutions. The central banks are instructing the banks to increase capital by the shareholders. And this how the CRAR is calculated. CRAR equals capital funds by risk-weighted assets, multiplied by 100. So what are the benefits of this measure? Benefit number 1. More the capital put by the shareholders or owners of banks, the more will be the capability of the banks to overcome a crisis on its own. Benefit number 2. If the shareholders are injecting more money, the bank will not take any risks, as it may result in more loss of money of the shareholders, in the case of a bank failure. CRAR is the capital needed for a bank measured in terms of the assets, mostly loans, dispersed by the banks. Higher the assets, higher should be the capital by the bank. The idea is simple: if you are managing huge money in the form of loans given, you should put more money into your bank. Such a deployment of money will make you more responsible while you give loans, because loans are financed out of deposits. If loans are not coming back, the depositor should not suffer. Most of us know that non-performing asset is the unrecoverable or overdue loans of the bank. Recently our Chief Economic Advisor Mr. Arvind Subramanian expressed his concern about the NPAs of the banks as NPA issue is India's #1 macroeconomic challenge of the nation. Even the former RBI Governor Mr. Raghuram Rajan also expressed the same concern. And this how the NPA is calculated. NPA ratio is equals to net non-performing assets divided by loans given. What is return on assets? This is an indicator of how profitable a bank is relative to its total assets. ROA gives an idea as to how efficient management is at using its assets to generate earnings. By using the above the 3 parameters the RBI can assess the financial health of the commercial banks. And this how the ROA is calculated. ROA is equal to net income divided by total assets. Now let us have a look on the data of banks based on the financial measure parameters. This is the recent data of Indian banks. RBI will classify the banks based on the calculated parameters. The first one is risk threshold 1, and the next one is risk threshold 2. The final one is risk threshold 3. The required parameter values can be seen in the screen. On the threshold levels, the RBI can take the actions. Basically 2 types of actions will be taken. One is mandatory actions and the next one is discretionary actions. This table shows you the actions based on the threshold level. There are so many misconceptions after the revised PCA is introduced. To clarify this, RBI made press release on 5th June, 2017. The press note says, 1. The Reserve Bank of India has come across some misinformed communication circulating in some section of media including social media, about the Prompt Corrective Action, PCA, framework. 2. The Reserve Bank has clarified that the PCA framework is not intended to constrain normal operations of the banks for the general public. It has further clarified that the Reserve Bank, under its supervisory framework, uses various measures, tools to maintain sound financial health of banks. PCA framework is one of such supervisory tools. Thank you.